Okay, so in this video we will talk about limits. Okay, let us start. But before we start, I want you to familiarize yourselves with these basic limit laws. So our first law will be the constant law, which states that a limit, let's say, yeah, a limit of a constant as it approaches a certain number, denoted as c, will always be the constant itself. So let's say we are asked to find the limit. We are asked to find the limit of x as it approaches 2 of 3. So the value will always be 3. The next one will be the one that we will call the function x law. This law states that any, let's say, let us visualize na lang. The limit of, let's say, 3 of x will be 3. So any value, as long as similar siya rito, will be the value that it will be approaching. So let's say, ang variable natin dito is f. Yan, f. The, the limit of f as f approaches 10 will be always equal to the limit f is approaching. So, in this case, it's equal to 10. So, yun. Yun ang ating two laws na kailangan nating i-familiarize. So, let us solve some basic limits first. So, let us evaluate the limit of the limit of 6 as it approaches 2. So according to our limit law, according to our constant law of limits, kapag may constant tayo, ang limit niya any value it approaches will be the number itself. So in this case, it's 6. Next, let us solve for the limit of function r as r approaches 1/2. Now, according to our function x law, kung ano man yung value, kung similar siya sa ina-approach nito, let's say yung function similar sa value na ina-approach ng ating argument, kung ano man yung ina-approach niya will be the limit of the function. So in this case, it's 1/2. So, what if naka-encounter tayo ng ganitong problem? The limit of x as it approaches -2 of the function for x. Yan. What will we do? Anong gagawin natin kapag nakakita tayo ng ganitong problem? Okay. So, first of all, ang kailangan lang natin is to substitute whatever variable here that this variable is approaching to our function. So, in other words, kailangan na natin i-substitute yung value na ina-approach ng variable sa ating function. Which in this case, ang x natin ina-approach yung -2. So, we just need to substitute we just need to substitute -2 for x. So, our limit will be equal to 8. So, that is, -8. Yeah. So, that will be the limit of x as it approaches -2 of the function for x. Now, let us try this one. The limit of the limit of the function x minus 2 as x approaches 1. Now, when solving, we just need to substitute the value that the variable is approaching. So in this case, it's approaching 1. So we just need to substitute 1 to 2, 1 to x. So our limit is equal to -1. Last, what if we are asked to find the limit of the function 2x plus 3 times x plus 2 as x approaches -3. Now, katulad nga ng sabi ko kanina, let's just substitute the value that is that the variable is approaching. So in this case, -3 yung ina-approach niya. So we just substitute 2 times -3 plus 3 times, kaya pa natin isang parenthesis, times -3 plus 2. So we just evaluate. 2 times -3 will be -6 plus 3 times -3 plus 2 will be -1. So that is just -3 times -1. So ang ating sagot ay 3. So as x approaches -3, the limit of this function is equal to 3. So that's how you get the limits of ganito. That's how you get the limit. So similar sa concept ng domain and range, where sometimes may exclusion na nagaganap, similar din tayo dito sa limits. In limits, we have the concept of existing limits and non-existing limits. So, paano ba natin ma-determine kung nag-exist ba yung limit ng isang function or hindi? So, here are the conditions. Yan. For a limit of a function to exist, it must satisfy these conditions. Ito lang yung basic conditions, pero marami pa siya. Number 1, it must be defined. So, ibig sabihin, any value you plugged into the function, it will be defined. Now, next, the left and right hand limit must be equal. Now, we will talk about the left and right hand limit as we progress through this video. Next, its graph must exhibit characteristics of continuity. So, in simple terms, kapag nakakita kayo ng graph na let's say ganito ang itsura, wait lang. So, pag nakakita kayo ng graph na ganito yung itsura, ibig sabihin, yung function na yan, yung limit ng ganyang function will not exist. So, let us have an example of limits, and we will try to identify whether nag-exist ba yung limit niya or hindi. Now, let us start to solve the limit of the function 2x squared plus 3x plus 4 as x approaches 4. Now, we just substitute, katulad ng process natin kanina, we just substitute the value that our variable is approaching to the function. So, it's gonna be 2 4 raised to 2 plus 3 4 plus 4. So it's gonna be 2 times 16 plus 12 plus 4. So 16 times 2 is 32 plus 12 plus 4. So 32 plus 12 will be 44 plus 4 is 48. So the limit of this function as x approaches 4 will be 48. Now let us try to solve this one. A power of 4 or a quartic polynomial. So 2 will be just 6. So it will be just 6 2 raised to 4 plus 2 2 raised to 3 plus 5 2 plus 1. So So it's gonna be 2, 2, 2, 2, 16. So it's gonna be 16 times 6. 6 times 16 plus 2, 2, 2, 8. 2 times 8 plus 10 plus 1. Parenthesis pala. So it's gonna be 16 times 6, 6, 36, 96. 96 plus 16 plus 10 plus 1. So it's gonna be 96 plus 26. 16 plus 10, 26. Okay. 96 plus 16. Ay, 26 na yan. Will be 6. Ay, 12. Ano ba yan? Hindi ako marunong mag-what. 6, 12, carry 1, 9, 10, 12. 122 plus 1 is 123. So our limit, the limit of this function as it approaches 2 will be 123. Now if you notice something, these functions are polynomial functions. These functions are polynomial functions. They're in the form of ax n plus ax, ay hindi, bx na tayo. Bx n minus 1, so on and so forth. So if you notice some trends when talking about the limits of a polynomial function, in most cases, let me remove this. In most cases, the limit of a polynomial function, let's say, ayan, axn plus a, again, n minus 1. The limit of a polynomial function will always exist. So it will always exist. Yan. So every polynomial function, any degree pa yan, as long as it's a polynomial, its limit will always exist. However, hindi natin masasabing the same sa, let's say, a rational function or trigonometric function. Sometimes it will not exist. Now let's have an example of a function where its limit may or may not exist. Now let us try to solve the limit of the function x plus 4 over x squared plus x minus 12 as x approaches negative 4. Now as you can see, hindi na siya polynomial, but it's now a radical function. A radical function is a function in the form of p of x over q of x. So this is now a radical function, and unlike polynomial function, may tendencies na ang mga radical functions, ang limits ng radical functions may or may not exist. Now, let us identify the limit of the function by substituting. Katulad ng ginagawa natin kanina, we usually just substitute. So, let's do this. Negative 4 plus 4. Yan. Negative 4 squared plus negative 4 minus 12. So, it's gonna be 0 over negative 4 raised to 2 will be 16 minus 12 will be 4. 16 minus 12 will be 4. And 4 minus 4 will be 0. So, as we can see, it's in the form of 0, 0. Now, anything divided by 0 will always be undefined. Undefined. Now, when you see something that is in the form of 0, 0, we call this an indeterminate function. Type ko na lang. Pangit ang sulat eh. Type na natin. It is called an indeterminate function. indeterminate functions are functions in the form of 0, 0. Now, does this mean na ang limit ng function na to will not exist? Not necessarily. Indeterminate functions are functions that in like simple at a single glance, like in simple terms like substituting, we will end up with an undefined value. So that's what we call an indeterminate function. Now, how do we find the limit of an indeterminate function? Now, let us go back to our problem. What can we do to make the denominator not zero? Kasi ang indeterminate functions, ang main cause kasi ng indeterminate functions is yung denominator na zero. Kasi you can't divide anything by zero. So that's that is what basta yun yung nagpapa indeterminate sa isang function. Now, nakita natin na yung ating denominator ay nagpapasanhi or parang nagko-cause ng zero. So, how do we solve so that our denominator will not give a zero? Now, if you look at this, it's a quadratic. Now, quadratics can be factored. Now, how do we factor x squared plus x minus 12? When factoring quadratics like this, algebra lang, we just x plus blank and x minus blank. So that's how you factor these kinds of quadratics. Now, we need to think of a number that when added together will equal to 1x or x. Basta 1. Yeah. When added together, it will result to 1. Now, it is 4 saka 3. Ay, mali. Okay. We need to think of a number that when added together, it will give 1, and when multiplied together, it will give negative 12. Now, if we think, it will just give a 4 tapos 3. Now, let us see if it satisfies 1x. Pag inad daw natin itong dalawa, dapat magre-resulta sa 1. So, 4 plus negative 3 will be 1. So, that satisfies the first condition. Next, ano naman yung pag minultiply natin yung dalawa? 4 times negative 3. So, it will be negative 12. So, it satisfies the second condition. So, that's how you factor these kinds of polynomials. Kinds of quadratics. Now that we have the factors of x squared plus x plus 12, which is x plus 4, tapos x minus 3, tapos x plus 4 din sa batas. X plus 4, kasi hindi naman natin kailangan i-factor yan eh. Now, looking at this, ito na ba yung ating final form? Hindi pa. Kasi as you can see, meron pa tayong pwedeng i-cancel eh. Itong dalawang x plus 4 na to. Pwede natin siyang i-cancel. So, this cancels out. So, this one will just divide it by 1. So, ang ating, ba't pula? So, ang ating limit ay x plus 4 divided by x plus 4 will just give 1 over, yung natira is x minus 3. So, that's how you rationalize an indeterminate function. Kung nag-output siya ng 0 over 0, kung indeterminate function siya, that's one of the steps on how you rationalize an indeterminate function. Now that we have this rationalized form of this function, we can now use this as the basis of our new limit. So, x approaches 4 of 1 over x minus 3. Ayan. So, we can just now substitute 1 over negative 4 minus 3. So, negative 4 minus 3 will be 1 over negative 7, or just 1 over 7. Ay, negative 1 over 7. So, let us have another example. Now, let us find the limit of x over x minus 1 over square root of x plus 3 minus 2 as x approaches 1. Now, let us identify whether this rational function, a radical function, is indeterminate or not by substituting. So, we just substitute 1 minus 1. So, that's just 1 minus 1 over square root ng 1 minus 3 minus 2. 1 plus 3 pala to, sorry. 1 plus 3 plus minus 2. So that is just 0 over 1 plus 3 is equal to 4. Square root ng 4 will be 2 minus 2 will be 0 over 0. So, but 6. 0 yan. So we can see now that this function is indeterminate. Now, let us try to rationalize the function. So how can we rationalize the function? Unlike the last problem na kinailangan lang natin i-factorize, as we can see, wala tayong pwede ma-factorize dito sa function na to. So how can we rationalize this one without factoring? Kasi hindi natin kaya mag-factor eh. Now, you can see that a radical is involved in the denominator. This one. Yan. This radical na to. Now, in order for us to remove this radical, we just need to find the conjugate. So, basically, the conjugate is the opposite, kumbaga, in layman's terms, the opposite of this expression. So, what is the opposite of square root of x plus 3 minus 2? Yes, that is square root of x plus 3 plus 2. So, that is the opposite of the denominator. So, baka sabihin nyo, bakit hindi naging negative yun nasa loob? When talking about radicals na may, let's say, may variable or may constant sa loob, we don't get involved with the expression inside the radical, but the outside. So, in this case, 2, since conjugate is kumbaga kabaliktaran ng negative is positive, so that will be the conjugate of the function of the expression. Now, we just need to take the conjugate and multiply it to the function, to the numerator and denominator. So, that's gonna be x plus 3, ba't ang haba ng radical? X plus 3 plus 2. Now, let us solve x minus 1 times x square root of x minus plus 3 pala. 3 plus 2 over, that's 1, square root of x plus 3 minus plus 2, minus 2 muna, times square root of x plus 3 plus 2. Now, let us simplify. It's gonna be so that's gonna be x x minus 1 was square root of x, pangit ang x ko, x plus 3 plus 2, tapos multiply natin tong dalawa using the FOIL method kasi nakikita naman natin that it's a kumbaga two terms. This is the first term and this is the second term. First term and second term. So we can use a squared, basta yung a times b, something like that. Basta yung magiging a squared plus 2ab plus c. Basta yung ganyan magiging form. Now, anyways, let us use this. Let us multiply this using the FOIL method. So using the FOIL method, you just multiply the first terms outside, so it's gonna be this one. So when you multiply radicals, the radical sign will just simply disappear, so it's gonna be x plus 3. Yan, kasi mawawala lang yung radical pag minultiply mo yung dalawang radicals. Next, the outside. So 2 times square root of x plus 3 will be just 2 square root plus yan, plus 2 plus square root x plus 3. Yan. Next, first outside, inside. So negative 2 times square root of x plus 3 will be just negative 2 plus yan plus 2 square root of x plus 3. Tapos, last, yung inside, ay, very outside pala. So, negative 2 times 2 will be negative 4. So, let us evaluate. These two cancel out because opposite sila ng terms. Ito, yeah. This 2 and this 1 will cancel out because different sila ng terms. So, those will cancel out. So, ang matitira sa atin is x plus 3 minus 4. Minus yan. Now, let us further evaluate. Add the constants. Positive 3 minus 4 will be just x minus 3 minus 4 will be 1. So, ang sagot dito is x minus 1. So, let us put this one here. So, x minus 1. Now that we simplified our denominator, ito na ba yung rationalized form ng function? Hindi pa. Kasi, meron pa tayong pwedeng i-cancel. Ayan, x minus 1 saka x minus 1 na yan. Pwede pa natin i-cancel yan. So, 1 divided by 1 will be 1 times this term. So, it will just simplify to square root of x plus 3 plus 2. So, that is our rationalized form. And we can now use this to find the limit as x approaches 1. Yan. Obviously. Kasi itong function na to is the rationalized form of this one. So, it will give the same answer. Anyways, as x approaches 1, so let's just substitute x. So, it will be just 1 plus 3 plus 2. Now, 1 plus 3 is 4. Square root ng 4 is 2 plus 2. So, ang limit natin is equal to 4. So, that is the limit of the function x minus 1 over square root of x plus 3 minus 2. So, that is the limit of the function. Yun na. So, that's how you get it. Now, let us try to have an example. Like, an example wherein akala natin yung function niya nag-e-exist. However, in reality, hindi pala siya nag-e-exist. Now, let us evaluate the limit of square root of x minus 2 over x plus 1 as x approaches 2. Now, if we try substituting, so it's gonna be 2 minus 2 over 2 plus 1. Now, if we try the square root of 0 over 3, so square root ng 0 is just 0 over 3. So, it's gonna be just 0. So, yan. Now, we got a constant value, which is 0. Does this mean na ang limit nito is, the limit nito is 0 as x, the limit of the function as x approaches 2 will be 0? That's not necessarily the case. Kasi kung iisipin natin kanina, the conditions for a limit to exist are as follows. Kung natatandaan niyo pa yung rule 2, it states there that the left and right hand limits should be equal to each other. Now, if we try to find the left and right hand limits of this function, okay, let us try to find the limit of the left hand limit first. Ay, the right hand limit na lang pala of the function. Yan. 2 plus. So, right hand functions are denoted as 2 plus. We will expound on this on a different video, the concept of uh, left and right hand limits. However, now, let us try to find. So, for us to take the right hand limit, we just need to take since sabi nga on the name itself, the right hand limits. So it means all the values to the right of 2. So ibig sabihin greater than ganun eh. Yan, greater than 2. So we will use values greater than 2 when taking the right hand limits kasi ang given natin is 2 and we are asking for the right one, so it's greater than 2. So any value greater than 2, well, let's just use 3. So it's gonna be 3. So it's gonna be 3 minus 2 over ano ba to? 3 minus 3 plus 1. So it's gonna be square root of 3 minus 2. So it's gonna be square root of 1 over 4. So it's gonna be just 1/4. Now, we have the value of our right hand limit. However, what if we take what if we took the left hand limit? So it's gonna be denoted as instead na plus, minus ang ating nalagay. Yan. So, let us think of a value that is less than 2 kasi to the left. So less than 2. Now, let us use 1 as an example. So it's gonna be 1 minus 2 over 1 plus 1. So it's gonna be 1 minus 2 will be the square root of negative 1 over 2. So as we can see now, the limit is now, ang square root ng 1 is denoted as I, or it's a complex number, an imaginary number over 2. Now, as we can see, ang limits, ang left hand limit ng function will always yield an I. Kasi if we look at it, any values to the left of 2 or less than 2, if we plugged it in sa x, let's say we used 5, negative 5. Ayan. Negative 5 minus 2 will give us negative 7. Now, ano yung square root ng negative 7? It will be negative 7. It will be 7i. Now, even if ganyan yung concept natin, it is still an imaginary number. Meaning, it is a complex number that mostly agreed upon does not exist. So we can see that any values to the left of this function will not exist kasi the numerator will yield an imaginary number. Now if we look at the graph of the function, ayan, x minus 2 over x plus 1, we can see that the graph stops at 2 or 2, 0. And we can also see na wala ng values to the left. Ayan. The graph doesn't extend to the left. Ayan. Ayan, di ba? To the right lang siya. The values to the right will definitely exist. However, to the left, hindi natin, makikita natin na hindi siya nag-e-exist. So, we can now say that, ayan, we can now say that the right hand limit will always, wait lang, lagyan natin, the limit of the function, lagyan na natin of f of x, as x approaches 2 plus will always exist. Yan, may existence siya, exist. Lagyan natin as denoted as e. However, yung left hand limit niya, denoted as denoted as x 2 minus, will not exist. Yan, doesn't exist. Yan now. Now we can see that the right and the left hand limits are not equal to each other. Yan, hindi siya equal to each other. Now, using this, we can now conclude that the function, or the function tuloy, the limit of the function, wait lang, burahin lang natin. The limit of the function square root of x minus 2 over x plus 1 will not exist or doesn't exist because the left hand values is not, the left hand limit is not equal to the right hand limit as stated by the proof earlier, diba? So we can now say that the limit of this function will not exist. Tandaan nyo lang, if the left hand limit and the right hand limit is not equal to each other, then the limit doesn't exist. Now, we will continue this video on we will continue the discussion on the part 2 of this video. So, yan.